Live and direct. It's Sway in the morning.
Right here on Shade 45.
37 minutes into the hour. Sway in the morning, Shade 45. It's the front of the year. And what we're trying to do is just give people tools to help them achieve their goals early on.
Yes.
You know, you get this information, it can help you move forward and whatever it is that you're trying to do. A lot of people that listen to this show around the world, on every continent, a lot of people are fascinated with the world of entertainment.
Absolutely.
And being that we're fortunate enough to work near it, I'm not saying we're in it, we're blue-collar entertainment workers. We like to help people find the path to their goals. So with this said, Heather B., you're an actress. You're the first African-American reality TV star.
Yep.
You're a vocalist. You're a mixologist. You make the best martinis in the game.
Woohoo!
With that said, our very special guest is here today. I'd love for you to introduce her.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce her because she came highly recommended, actually even by my own agent. Sway mentioned that I do some acting, but Jen Rudin is here. You wrote an amazing book called Confessions of a Casting Director, and I wanted to get it correctly because there's a fine line and a difference between a casting director and an agent. And I would want you first and foremost to kind of differentiate between the two because people get it confused. They think because they saw a casting agent or a casting director that's the same as having an agent or a manager. So I think for our citizens here at Sway in the Morning, you are the perfect person to break this whole industry down.
So I feel like the cast, first of all, it's great to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm very happy to be here and the balmy 28 degrees today as opposed to the past couple days. Yep. So casting directors and agents work closely together, but the best differentiation is that the casting director is the buyer and the agent is the seller. That's how I view the relationship because a talent agent represents actors. Mm-hmm. They have a pool of actors and they're really like an employment agency to get these actors work. And the casting director is hired by the director or the producer or the TV show to populate the show and find the actors. So we decide who's going to come in and audition, and the agents sell. So ultimately, the agents are representing actors. They're going to negotiate their contracts, and they're going to be with the actor, like you, for the span of their career. And my obligation is to the project that I'm casting. So I love actors, but I don't represent actors. And I like being on the casting side because I'd like to give the actors the opportunity for the job. I don't want to be the agent who says, oh, you didn't get it. That's a tough job. That's a really tough job. So that's the biggest difference. But everybody calls casting directors casting agents. We're not. We're casting directors. And I constantly have to make that correction. Mm-hmm. But that's it. The buyer-seller relationship is the easiest way for me to explain it.
Now, you didn't just fall into this. You know, since you were a child, you were an actress. You've been an actor since you were a child, correct?
Yes. I'm a recovered professional child actress. I grew up in New York City, and I wanted to start auditioning. I started going to acting school at age 8. And because I lived in the city, my mother said, okay, I'll take you to auditions. But I think if I'd lived anywhere else, even in the suburbs, like in New Jersey, they would have said, no, we're not going to schlep you in for these auditions. So I started auditioning for commercials when I was 8 and lying awake at night and praying to God to please give me the role. I mean, I really was so obsessed with trying to get the part. And then started auditioning for TV shows and theater and more by the time I was 10, up until 17 when I left to go to college.
So some of the work you've done ABC after school specials. What are some of the other things you were able to land?
I did a bologna commercial that ran for about 10 years in the South. And
Oscar
I have
Mayer?
to say, not an Oscar Mayer commercial, but a Southern brand. And even though it was the most traumatic audition because I had to eat bologna and it's disgusting and I hated it and I made a face, it ended up, the commercial paid well. The residuals were good and I was able to pay for some college and some travel. So that was exciting just because I actually put some money in the savings account.
Give me an example of how much money you can make from landing a national commercial
well,
like that.
A national commercial is they're fewer these days than they used to be, but I did cast the Verizon Can You Hear Me Now campaign in 2001, and that guy, Paul Macchiarelli, is doing just fine. It's hard to know. There used to be a lot of national commercials back in the 80s, and then the world changed, the economy changed, and now things aren't running the same way that they used to on the air. So it's hard to know, but you're paid in cycles as an actor for every time that commercial airs. So all I can say is go on every single commercial audition that you have the opportunity to go on because you just never know.
You know, let's just dispel the myths. what do they call that? The casting couch?
Yes.
Does that really exist?
Well, I have worked in offices with casting couches, but no, that I do not espouse that.
Yeah, so there's never been an actress that banged out an agent to get a role or something.
Well, I don't know, but obviously it is all about networking and who you know and making connections, of course.
Okay, we got a few people on the line, but before we get into that, a couple things we were talking about, the do's and don'ts of acting and auditioning. What are some of the don'ts?
So the don'ts. So remember, guys, if you're calling yourself a professional actor, you need to show up and be professional. So don't come into the audition room with all your baggage from the day and your shopping bags and all the drama that you just had on the subway. You got to leave all that stuff, metaphorical and literal, outside the door and walk in and be a professional. So I've seen actors come in with bags of junk and boots and this and, the subway was completely screwed up and and all this drama. And you know what? We all had to take the subway to get here. Leave it outside, come in and do your work. So a lot of chaos and drama, don't bring that into the audition room.
Does that, to a casting director, does that look like you're just setting up an excuse to fail? For your lack of talent or perhaps?
Well, I can spot crazy a mile away.
Yeah.
I really can. And if somebody comes into the room and brings in all this craziness, I don't necessarily want to hire them. And I need to hire an actor that's going to show up at the set, be a professional, be prompt, be on time, be early, and do a good job. So if you come into the audition room chaotic with all your drama, it's not going to leave a very good impression. And remember, you only have one chance to make a good first impression.
What about the do's?
The do's. Be prepared. That is the most important thing. If you find out that you have an audition Tuesday at 5 o'clock and it's Monday night at 6 o'clock, you've got less than 24 hours to get prepared, to figure out, how am I going to get to the audition? Who's going to take care of my kids so I can get into the city for the audition? What script do I have to prepare? What am I going to wear? What time is the train? And so you kind of have to organize yourself to make that appointment Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So do preparation. Be prepared.
All right. Jen Rudin, the author of Confessions of a Casting Director, is here. What percentage of roles are landed based on true talent compared to politics?
Sure. It's always hard to say. There's no right or wrong answer to that question. Sometimes the role goes to the director's cousin. Sometimes the role goes to the student who just graduated from the Yale School of Drama. And sometimes it goes to the beautiful girl who walked into the room. It depends on what the role is. So you want to be prepared. You want to be a good actor, be trained, and have your life together. But a lot of it you can't control. And I think that's the one thing that actors have to figure out is, how do I walk into the audition room, do a good job, and then leave and get on with my day? And it's easier said than done when ultimately every audition is like a job interview, and every audition an actor is being judged. Will they like me? Will they hire me? So I don't know what the answer is. I just know that you got to be able to walk off and kind of let it go and get on the train and go have lunch and all that.
Just to give people an idea of some of the projects that you've casted actors in, can you name some of them?
Sure. So I was on staff at Disney for a long time. I was the head of casting for the feature animation division. So I worked on cool movies like The Incredibles, Chicken Little, Brother Bear, The Princess and the Frog, which was Disney's first African-American princess, and Return to the Movie Musical. So that was a really good one. And
Wasn't that the one Beyonce wanted to do the role?
Yes.
But she didn't want to audition, right?
Well, here's the thing. Beyonce, who I'm a huge fan of Beyonce, and this was the time when Dreamgirls had just come out. And so we were auditioning A-level actresses for this role. Tyra Banks came in and Jennifer Hudson came in, and everybody came in and auditioned. And it wasn't like a cattle call. It was like a meeting. And I definitely was interested in having Beyonce be considered for the role, but we just wanted to see about the acting, because again, in animation, you just have your voice.
Yeah. And
so we also needed to find an actress who was believably this character in New Orleans in the 1920s. And so at that point, she wanted an offer, and I respect that 100% because she is Beyonce.
She's Beyonce. You know that, Jen.
And
that is Beyonce.
She's great. Ultimately, Jennifer Hudson auditioned a few times. Alicia Keys came in, and Alicia Keys, is one of the nicest people I've ever met. She also came in a couple times. She worked with a dialect coach to try to get the New Orleans accent down, and she's got that beautiful smoky sound to her voice. And ultimately, Anika Noni Rose, who was also in Dreamgirls, got the role. She's a theater-trained actress, and she sounded, at the end of the day, when we listened to all the different ladies, she sounded like a girl in New Orleans in the 1920s, and of course has a great singing voice. So she got the part. and auditioned fair and square.
We got Sydney from Vegas. Sydney, good morning. How you doing, Sydney?
Hey, Sydney.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Hey, Sydney. Doing well?
Sid.
Say hello to Jen.
Good,
Hi.
Good. Okay. Good. Hi. How are you? You know what? I'm just so happy to hear you. This is such a blessing because I've kind of been going through some things, and I'm an actress. I live in Las Vegas right now. Do you recommend just moving like immediately to LA to get started, or should I still kind of utilize what I have here as far as like taking class and whatnot? Like, how polished should I be before I make a transition to a big city? What I'm at.
I always say it's good to bloom where you're planted and stay local as long as possible. There's no reason to move to LA or New York unless you're really prepared financially and emotionally to move to one of those cities. If you buy my book, which I hope you do, I have an entire chapter devoted to New York versus LA and the differences between the two cities and how you need to be prepared for each of them.
It's called Confessions of a Casting Director, okay? All right.
Okay, thank you. God bless you guys. Thank you.
All right, good
God
luck.
bless.
And Sydney, you're a citizen.
A Sway in the morning.
We have Amber on the line from Cali. Good morning, Amber. How are you?
Hey, Amber.
Good morning. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing okay. Say hello to Jen.
Yes. Hello, Jen. How are you? My
I'm
name's
good.
Amber. I'm going to be very quick. I'm 32. I went to school. I have my MBA. I work as an accountant. And I always loved to do performing arts. I was a dancer, cheerleader. And I guess my question to you is it too late for me? I sit in my office sometimes, especially now because it's the busy time for us. And I think, like, did I miss that bus? I auditioned for, like, the Charger Girls back in the day. And I guess, like, I really like to talk. I like to act. And
You definitely like to talk. So is it too late for her?
So, Amber, look, it's never too late to pursue your dreams. It's not. I'm not a prophet or a visionary, so I can't tell you whether or not you would make it. But I do think if you want to pursue your dreams and you'll be happier, for sure, you should stay local and start to do some classes and fulfill the creative side that it sounds like you might not be getting from accounting.
What was the woman?
Okay, because I guess I hear that, after 30, a career in acting in a commercial, landing a role like that is
She already
almost
answered that,
impossible.
Amber. All right, thank you. What's
Viola Davis?
Viola Davis
Yeah.
started. I mean, she acted for years, but didn't really get that recognition till later in her career. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's other forms too. You can do voiceover work. There's so many other ways to make a living as an actor, not just on screen necessarily. So she can try other things, as Jen said.
Courtney is in Colorado. Good morning, Courtney.
Good morning, everybody.
How you doing?
Good
Good morning.
What's your question?
Well, I have some movies that I have the plots to, like an outline, basically beginning, middle, end, but I don't have a script to it, basically, and I don't know how to do that. And I was wondering, how do I shop my movie to somebody or my idea to somebody and maybe get it made into a movie?
Sure. Well, we all have good ideas for movies, absolutely, but structure is very important. And there's a great book by Sid Field called Screenplay. So if you're interested in writing a screenplay, I'll do a little pitch for his book. But, everybody's got great ideas, but it's about the execution of the idea. And screenplays are very, very organized with Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So either you want to meet somebody and sell them your idea or try to write your own screenplay, which, believe me, having just written a book, writing is a very, very not tedious. It's a wonderful process, but it takes a lot of time and patience.
Tracy, you're an actress.
One day maybe I'll be able to take that title. But I know the auditioning process is very daunting. So if someone fumbles, they can get emotional. Has anyone ever had like a crazy meltdown in front of you when they messed up?
Yeah, I had a girl who she was a woman actually, look, I've seen some kids cry in the audition room, and for the children's casting, I always try to let them step outside for a minute and see their parents or go get a cookie or go to the bathroom and come back in because they're children and I don't want anybody to have a terrible experience. I recently had a gal come in for a pilot for Lifetime, and she was wouldn't listen to me, and she was taking everything off the script and making stuff up and cursing, and it was kind of crazy, and she was really abrasive, and I had never seen that side of her, and I called her agent and said, listen, is she okay? Because it was really not cool behavior. Wow. And then finally turns out she was on some sort of new medication and some steroids, and they were making her all jacked up. So that's an example where somebody does come in and is completely not organized. It's intense, and she called to apologize, and it's fine. It's just I would have preferred to know in advance. You can come another day if you're just getting used to this medication.
Jen Rudin is here, Confessions of a Casting Director. Real quick, I was telling my daughter's an actress, and I see a lot of the child actors who are basically traumatized by rejection. Not saying that's true of my daughter. She's a very resilient person. What advice do you give to managing parents?
Sure. So stage moms and child actors is such a huge topic that we gave an entire chapter to the book. In fact, it could be a whole follow-up book. I've met a lot of parents over the years who have sacrificed a lot for their children. I really think it starts at home. If your child is going on auditions and having fun, that's the most important part of their day. If they have a good time in the audition room, that's great. The second that they start to feel that the rejection is affecting their outlook on life, or they're not dealing well with the pressures, that's when you really have to think, should we go play soccer instead? And your child really has to want to do it, because believe me, it is not glamorous for the parents at all. It involves so much driving and schlepping and waiting and money. And so the book talks all about the initial investment that you have to make as a parent and as an actor in trying to get into the career. Nobody pays you to go to an audition.
Not at all. Yeah.
You got to pay for parking, the George Washington Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel, if there's a toll. It really can add up. And if you join the local soccer team, you're going to have a series of games to play for the season, but it's not the same. If you go on auditions, there's no promise that you're going to get a job. So you either have to have a certain amount of money set aside, a grandparent that can take the child into the auditions in the city, and, it costs money. Yep. It all costs money.
Jen Rudin, this is a very great book, you guys. Pick it up, Confessions of a Casting Director. You can find it online. You can find it in stores.
Yep, you can go to jenrudin.com, JENRUDIN.com. You can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and find the book. And if you get it on Amazon and you love the book, tweet me and then write a great review on the site, because those reviews are really important.
And what's your Twitter address?
My Twitter is at RudinJen, RUDINJEN.
Thank you for coming
and
by.
I tweeted you, and
Did
now
you?
we're
following each other. I'm following you now, Jen. We're following each other. All right.
You're listening to Sway in the morning on Shea 45.